beautiful people. One of the things that I love about what Bill's doing over here at Kolea Farm is obviously the view.
Okay.
All right, I want to talk about some of the things I like about this farm, Kolea Farm in North Shore, Oahu, Pupukea. It is a 4-acre plot on a 200-acre larger piece of land, encompassing both food forest and market garden, as well as some row crops of trees. First thing that I notice and like about this is that these rows of ulu, breadfruit, there's mango, there's citrus, there's papayas in here as well, but they're planted on the highest part of the property on contour, meaning when water flows, as it does, and sometimes in sheets from this hill up above, when it hits these swales, these micro swales, these little ditches that are backed by a little berm, it stops and slows and sinks in and waters these trees. The whole property, in fact, the market garden as well, is laid out on contour. So in other words, the water is not encouraged to flow downhill, therefore he's not losing topsoil to erosion unnecessarily. The water is encouraged to spread out laterally, sideways, and sink into the ground. His fields are surrounded by plenty of lush grass and ground cover, which is going to absorb any runoff, keep that soil on his property. So yeah, the swales on contour, obviously a staple of any permaculture design, for water control and for sinking in water and keeping your stuff hydrated. And he said he had some really dry months recently. It's pretty wet and lush since I've been here, but I guess this year was unseasonably dry for the whole winter. So yeah, these swales I'm sure are helping a lot, all this ground cover as well. All right, so let's get into the food forest a little bit. Obviously lots of diversity here. I love the interaction between the market garden and the food forest. So the food forest provides protection from the prevailing easterly winds, so the market garden is less hit by the winds, and that's a beautiful, I'm assuming, intentional design where the tall trees are guarding the little annual crops. All right, something else I dig about Kolea Farms is they have many nurseries scattered throughout the farm, and the food forest in particular. And what they're doing by putting these plants underneath trees is, just like you see over there, is instead of having to go buy a greenhouse, instead of having to have all that plastic made out of petroleum, etc., you just use the natural conditions trees would normally sprout and grow up under, which is a forest canopy, to mimic some of the similar effects in terms of wind protection, in terms of shade, and getting the babies a dappled light rather than a full-on sunblast. How do forests grow baby trees? Let's do it like the forests do. One of the things I like about being out in this field, all day harvesting green beans, and feeling clean, still feeling clean all day because no chemicals are sprayed on this field. Why is that? One of the things that helps that be possible is this practice called intercropping, which is planting multiple things. This is still row cropping, still has some of the efficiency, to pump out veggies for the market garden. But here's sunchokes, here's beans, there's peanuts scattered in here, here's cilantro, sweet potatoes, mixing it up, confusing the bugs, also stacking harvests. So right now harvesting green beans, in a little bit these sunchokes will be ready. Maybe after that the peanuts will be ready, all within a short span of time. You can get a lot of food, a lot of variety of food as well. If one crop doesn't do too well, you still got the other crop. So intercropping is a great practice. Instead of just planting one thing, plant multiple things, and in this case plant things that help each other out. So both the peanuts and the beans are nitrogen fixers. They're building fertility in the soil. The sun crops are obviously a great starchy tuber crop, so you have both a starch and your protein from your beans and your peanuts, and you're making fertility in the soil as you do that. So less need for fertilizer, if at all. They don't use any fertilizer here. He just builds organic matter in the soil. Less need for pesticides to fight bugs, because the bugs can't hop from one plant to the next because the next plant is a weed, or the next plant is a sunchoke, or the next, if a bug that likes beans gets onto the beans, it has a lot harder time making its way, through the entire crop. So intercrop your veggies. All right, this is the definition of a guild right here. We've got a nice moringa tree and a dragon fruit and pole bean. Pigeon peas right next to it. In this case, Chaya is forming a trellis for this dragon fruit, which is just starting to flower. Beautiful flowers. They need to be hanging over something and sort of aiming down to flower, I believe. So that's how it climbs around the jungle, from what I understand. So anyways, this is a beautiful combination planting. They say, oh, space your plants out, don't put them too close. Nonsense. Put them together with your other trees. That's how they grow in the forest. Dragon fruit will climb up the moringa, the trellis. The beans will climb up the dragon fruit, and everyone will be just fine. So one of the many things I love about Kolea Farms over here is the food forest. And so this is one tail end of a food forest, but you see how it's kind of tapered, and it starts with real low-lying shrubs, parsley, Okinawa spinach, sage, aloe, mint, some type of basil, and it slopes upward. Now that's a nice feature in terms of easing the wind onto the property, right? Not putting too much pressure on your outer stuff unless you have a real strong windbreak. This is an alternative, super cool border planting of perennial herbs, and then a slow slope up into the food forest, which pushes the wind upward, I would imagine, and in general just eases the sun on into the place. So yeah, putting your short people up front, in the front row, so to speak, assures them the most sun. And these hardy, dry tolerant herbs can handle this hot western slope. So yeah, this is one of the features I like about Bill's food forest are its borders. You know, in permaculture, the edges and the marginal are super crucial.
I could take an updated pic. I took
Homemade
the video
bamboo
when
trellis
there was not a bean on it.
by Queen Bella.
Yeah, I built a cage.
Badass.
Using these trees as support,
Something I've been wanting to do here for years.
natural
This was all Cali
materials.
grass in here. This was just totally socked in with
And it's
grass.
just all bamboo and banana
yeah,
leaves.
this whole thing was just all grass. I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah.
And now they're suppressing weeds, fixing nitrogen for the trees, growing food, all at the same time.
It's all bamboo and banana husk.
Oh, nice. Banana husk?
Natural-
Oh, you tied it with banana husk?
Yeah, it's nothing.
Oh, what? Genius.
Using our environment to build.
Bamboo husk ties with banana husk ties. Bamboo poles.
I never grew this kind
But
of
this
bean.
part looks great.
This is awesome.
Look at the pumpkin growing up.
I know.
I know you got the squash coming in.
Fucking awesome, dude. In there.
Chayote
Chart it from the
vines.
chayote fruit itself, right? That's what sprouts. So I got it going in there, and I got it going up this tree. This is a nitrogen fixing tree, Gliricidia. And
How
the
long have
plan,
you
what
had
I would
that
like
going?
to see it do is get out there and reach for the sun, and then just kind of eventually it'll probably cover this tree, and then we'll have a chayote squash trellis. Multiple
Yeah.
purposes. Nitrogen fixing tree, gives shade, fast growing. The chayote squash, using it as a trellis.
What's the common name for Gliricidia?
Gliricidia. That's the common name. Another name for it is Madre de Cacao,
Madre.
or Mother of the Cacao. Yeah. Look at this. I'm amazed.
All right, another thing I like about Bill's here is the community sourcing, so to speak. So this bunch of charcoal, aka biochar, or you can use it as biochar, comes from a wood-fired grill at a restaurant that he used to sell to. So transactions where the waste product of one process, in this case cooking, become the growing medium or part of the growing medium for the food itself. That's a super cool sort of closed loop that I want to feature. Pilot charcoal source.
Yeah. Super good. Not gonna say anything about it.
Come on.
I don't know
Give
what
me
to
your
say.
kiss the ground explanation.
Okay, biochar, really great. Has so much carbon and nitrogen and just really great for the soil and for your stuff. So use it. Use it, people.
We'll workshop that.
Yeah. I'm all like, I don't know what to say.
Taro Kotu Kola. This is kalo, aka taro, a native Hawaiian staple crop that is being planted out in a stream bed. So taro needs a lot of water, so put it down here in the low-lying areas, and you don't need to come out and water it. This is another super cool one I just learned about, bele. It's a Polynesian plant, ulu, breadfruit. Beautiful tree, tropical staple crop that can feed a lot of people and taste freaking amazing. This one right here, super powerful superfood, noni. Smells, I've heard some describe it like reverse vomiting.
I've been looking for this for over 20 years, but I didn't know anybody that had this.
Super stoked on this tree. This is a soursop. It's a super powerful antioxidant slash anti-cancer agent. You can use the fruit, which I hear tastes like Jolly Ranchers, and or the leaves as well, which you can make a tea out of. So soursop, also known as guanabana. This is really good stuff. Just had this one for the first time. Amazing flavor. This is here Jamaican strawberry it's called, but it literally tastes like Fruit Loops. So tastes like breakfast cereal in a fruit. I don't know how it works, but it literally tastes exactly like you're eating Fruit Loops or Captain Crunch or something. Jamaican strawberry. So good. All right, so these last two things that I love about Kolea Farm are a little bit easier to tell you about than to show you, because they have to do with the farm as a social system, with the farm as something that's embedded in human interactions. The human relationships at Kolea take some of the best of what has been learned and applied in terms of the plant relationships. So what I mean by that is, obviously a farm is already something social. You're growing food for somebody. You are generally not alone in doing that, right? Often farms need help. They need groups of people doing stuff together in order to get stuff done, because they often involve large pieces of land, large equipment, you know, lots of plants. Even if he was just growing for, say, like a supermarket and he had that wholesale relationship, he would already be doing this very important social act. The particular way in which Kolea shares their veggies with people and their fruits is even more, I think, embedded in the community, in the direct community. So not only do they have a farm stand, which is awesome, they have some great, you know, local people who they would even get fruits from to share and sell. So it's creating ecosystems of people. He has a CSA. He has, you know, ways in which people buy in as an investor, in a sense, is what a CSA, that model invented by Booker T. Watley. If you don't know about him, important guy to look up. People can feel like an investor in a farm, feel like even a co-owner in a sense, you could say. And that investment that they make in the farm is rewarded in weekly boxes of veggies and fruits and other farm goods. So those are two ways in which he's embedded in the community. But then you add in this idea called woofing, right? What is woofing, if anyone doesn't know yet? Worldwide Organization of Organic Farms. That is a system essentially where you could sign up, say Isaiah did for the USA chapter, for $40 for the year, and you get connected with all these different farms that are looking for labor. They're looking for an exchange. They're looking to enter into an energy exchange with young people especially, but anyone who's really interested in learning about organic farming and has the energy and time and wants to go out and
live on a farm. And what you get as a woofer is you get room and board. Oftentimes you get to eat from that farm, and what you give in exchange is your energy and your labor and your harvesting and, you know, whatever else is needed on the farm. That itself, to me, feels like a very cool way to relate. It feels different. I don't feel, say, as I would if I was in the city and I'm just paying rent to an anonymous, often anonymous landlord, which is often just a holding company. You're paying these kind of abstractions that landlord themselves, you know, the property might actually be owned by the bank, and the landlord is themselves still paying off to the bank, this abstract entity. In the case of being on the land and knowing your lord of the land, so to speak, personally, and working for them directly, I feel like there's a face-to-face element of that I think is really empowering. I feel more comfortable knowing who I'm working for, knowing why I'm exchanging this labor for this place to stay and for this food oftentimes. It also kind of resembles and reminds me of older like guilds. So we don't just talk about plant guilds, but there's also, like, if you recall from the Middle Ages, you know, remember back then, they had apprentices who would work. If you were the shoemaker in the town and you knew how to make shoes best, you know, better than anyone in that town, and you all the sources for the leather and the whatever you needed, you had someone come on, a younger person, who would be there and learn by doing with you, learn by helping you directly. And that apprenticeship relationship, that model of education, I feel like is a very powerful model that we've kind of strayed away from in our oftentimes all too abstract, impersonal sort of economy, right? So I like that woofing itself is a personalization of the economy, and to not just get directly connected with the food and the earth that grows our food, but also with the people who grow our food, has felt very empowering for me. So I'm really glad that you know, I could be on that farm, and I really feel like everything we're saying about plants applies to people, and that's one of the ways in which a human guild, in which a human symbiotic mutualism is formed. You're always obviously on a farm farming for people, and you're farming with people. And to know that viscerally has been a very powerful element of this experience for me, right? To be at the farm stand, to be with the other woofers, to be, you know, seeing the people come into CSA, to now work even at the grocery store, one of the natural foods grocery stores that sells some of their products, right? So I'm connected with this whole community of people through the act of farming and gardening, and I love it. So that would be one, or 11 rather, of the things that I love about Kolea. And the final thing that I love about Kolea would be the social or broader kind of relationship. As a farmer, Bill has exemplified what it means to take seriously the role of land steward and to put your money where your mouth is in terms of action. So I can't talk about everything that he's done, although he has done much to be a warrior for a steward of the land that fights for the land. One of the things that he's been involved in, say, is preventing a local kind of what was essentially a forest that had been like ranched, I believe, and then it was kind of left fallow for a lot of years and turned in kind of like a wild forest. Some developers wanted to come in and turn it into more houses or condos or whatever, shopping malls, etc. And the community felt that this was maybe not the best route, that this had a stream going through it, it's a watershed, it's now forested, there's a lot of wild animals using it. And so they got together and they organized and they made a community land trust where they bought this piece of land as a community in order to protect it and steward it and leave it as a natural, or as natural as possible, environment. And that action, right, and Bill was instrumental in doing that. And so I think when you're a farmer and you have that relationship with the land, and then you take that to your society and you take it to other people and you do things to defend and protect wild lands and ecologically sensitive areas, to me that's such a beautiful application of the awakening that you have, or a proof of relationship. That's such a beautiful demonstration of one's love for the land and demonstration of one's embeddedness in community. So Bill has done many other things, including helping to found farmers markets, being involved in other economic activities that don't just relate to one individual relating to another, but relate to social systems that are now set up, in this case community land trust or whatever it may be, that then can perpetuate themselves without one's direct involvement. Without him being directly part of that, that land is now protected. So I think being, you know, awakened by your relationship with the land into politics, into being a farmer politician or a farmer warrior, I think that's a really beautiful thing that I saw Bill being involved in, and I saw him, you know, in a sense, suffering some of the consequences of being a pioneer, right? So when you pioneer something, when you push for something, when you are a warrior, you are going to take battles. When you are a pioneer plant, say used in a food forest in order to nurse other trees and help them bring them up, you sometimes will get hacked back, right? You will get chopped and dropped yourself. And Bill, I think, has been one of those pioneers, and I salute you, my brother. Thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for inspiring others to hopefully do something similar. So, to step back from all of this, a brief personal testimonial as to how this stuff feels to do, so maybe I can inspire other people to do something similar, and then kind of just I want to abstract and think about what are the broader lessons that we can learn from this. So as a personal testimonial, in terms of relation to land, relation to plants, relation to community health in connection, I felt stronger because I was connected with the Aina, the land, because I felt connected with other people, because that soil, earth, and social connection were filling me out. I literally felt stronger. I felt more solidified. I'd just been traveling a lot. I've been kind of moving about in hotels and different places and airplanes, and traveling takes a little something out of you. And the restful time, I did work. I worked hard out there, but it felt very restful and very restorative to do that. So if you get an opportunity to do something like that, wolfing, I hope it is similarly restorative for you and strengthening for you. And now I just want to say, like, if I had to take a look back and just abstract what I saw working in this whole system, it would be, one, that there's a connection between health and diversity, that having a lot of different things involved together, right? Many different plants, many different types of people, many different types of farming, even in this case, right? He has the food forest and the market garden. That diversity creates resilience. I come from Long Beach, one of the most diverse cities in the nation, and I'm proud to be a part of a very healthy social scene there, what I would consider healthy because of the diversity of Long Beach. I think that diversity has enhanced the health of that whole social environment. Connected to that, or following from that, the importance of relationships, right? Of not just having diverse things, not just having your pocket of Cambodians here and your pocket of Samoans over here, but the fact that they're intermingling in Long Beach, that they're relating to one another makes the whole social scene more powerful. And so when you think of plants not as that plant is going to steal from that plant if they're next to each other, but instead in terms of relationships, in terms of that plant could make nitrogen to feed that plant's roots, and that plant could offer shade for that plant which needs shade. And if you can see things in terms of diversity and then the diversity relating, creating this kind of resilience, I think you're going to be more empowered to farm. Things, plants, people, whatever, they flourish better when they're placed in an intelligent and loving relationship with one another. Thirdly, I'd say what I mean by intelligently would be respectfully towards nature. So thinking that, look at a forest, how does it work? Nature does this without us. Nature cycles massive amounts of biomass. Nature produces massive amounts of food without us needing to go in there and tinker things. We often just kind of mess things up sometimes. We mess things up when we don't observe, when we just kind of act out of like, this is what I think it should be, that's what I'm gonna make it, rather than what is nature trying to do here? How can I work with that? Right? When we respect natural cycles, in other words, so things like not, say, mixing our precious fresh water with our precious waste that's full of, our biological waste that's usually full of all kinds of nutrients, and flushing that out into the ocean, say, where it causes bacterial algal blooms and pollutes the formerly pure ocean. When we can respect that there's cycles of things and we need to understand them and enter into them as stewards, respectful stewards, rather than dictators telling nature what to do, that nature provides abundantly when we work with it. But nature is efficient at recycling. If we look at that with open eyes and we appreciate waste as a resource and we respect natural cycles, we are empowered. So those are the lessons from the food forest and from the whole system over there at Kolea, from the complicated intermingling of all this beautiful stuff that's happening. I think the food forest is a great teacher. I think Bill has paid attention to the food forest and listened to it and become a student of it. And I think that has empowered him to be a powerful steward of the land. So Bill, I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate you, Kolea Farms, everyone involved in that for making it happen and making it work, and for inspiring us. And hopefully y'all got some inspiration from this. Thank you for watching. Peace, y'all. Go grow some food.